Okay. This time we'll meeting to order. I'd like to ask Secretary Kroll if you'll do the roll call of members,
Yes,
please.
ma'am. Mr. Orozco?
Present.
Mrs. Paez?
Present.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Present.
Mrs. Cameron?
Present.
Mr. Crowe present.
We do have a quorum. So thank you all for being here. Our next item is our Pledge of Allegiance. So if we would all stand as able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of the friendship. Thank you. At this time, everyone did receive an agenda on the board, and are there any additions or changes? If not,
Madam
yes.
President,
Yes.
there is one.
Oh, you
correction.
did.
The item numbered 7B states that the trip is February 21st. The actual date is February 24th through the 25th. If we could make that correction.
Okay. Where is that?
7B.
Oh, 24. Mhm. Okay. And also under reports, we will have public comment
That'll be after this.
after the student
sorry.
council, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. So any other additions or changes?
I
Yes.
move that we approve the agenda with that one correction made by Mr. Turner.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
All right. All right, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we're down to reports. NEA, do we have a representative from the National Education Association? NEA Deming?
I don't see one here.
She broke her perfect attendance record, I think, right? Okay, our item B under 5 is our student council report from Deming High School. Do we have a report from Deming High School?
Oh, wow.
Good evening, Madam President Cameron, members of the board.
Would you tell us your names too?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
I am Blanca Miller. I am the junior class secretary. And then currently the sophomore representative. This past weekend, we attended the NMASC State Conference at Volcano Vista in Albuquerque, New Mexico. DHS brought home third place both schools brought home the award. Red Mountain brought home first place, Judge's Choice, Spirit Project of the Year. Second place, Judge's Choice for School Spirit Project of the Year. And third place, Delegate's Choice Project of the Year. And bronze for the council on. I apologize. I forgot to mention that we did go to the conference along with Red Mountain Middle School. So we both did bring home projects and having awards, forgive me. And DHS, we brought home third place Delegate's Choice for the Citizen Project of the Year. Third place Delegate's Choice for Health Project of the Year. And we also brought home gold for Student Council of the Year, which is what you're seeing now.
Yeah, congratulations.
Here on out, we are gonna be planning for our junior student council conference. Right now, we are trying to figure out a date for when that will be, but other than that, I think we just covered it. Okay,
Well,
any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Is that the conference you put on with the elementary
Yes, the
students?
junior
Okay,
Student council will invite, I believe it's 3rd through 6th graders.
okay, that's great.
I have to say, I think that's one of the most elaborate scrapbooks I have seen.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And it's based on Dr. Seuss, so it's one of my favorite.
Yeah, we worked very hard on it and got it done.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
Was there any other questions?
I don't think so.
Where will you go next year for your convention?
I believe next year they're holding state in Rio Rancho.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
Looking forward to that.
good, very
Yeah.
good. Well, thank you for representing the school so well.
Thank you.
I looked over your shoulder. Pretty
Okay.
impressive.
Yes. The next under report is public comment. At this time, we will, no?
Early college.
Oh, I'm sorry. I left off early college high school. I apologize for that. It's a good thing Charles is sitting by me and keeping me straight tonight.
Hello, everyone. I am Obed Rivera, and I am Vice President of the Student Council. I'm here just to talk about what we've been doing. And we actually we sold flowers for Valentine's Day in our school, and it was great sale. And we're planning on March is for a Spirit Week. And we're planning on it. We're just trying to figure out ideas for it. We kind of got a, like, I guess, sort of idea what we have for each day. And on March 10th, we're gonna have our prep rally in our school. And let's see. So sadly, we couldn't go to the state conference, but we're hoping that this year we will go. And we're trying to do community service and sailings where we could make enough money to go to. And that is just about it about Valley College High School. Any questions?
Any board members have questions?
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity, isn't it, to go to those,
Oh, yeah.
the big conferences?
I'm hoping that this year we will be able to go. So,
Great,
Yeah.
very,
Sounds good.
very good. Well, thank you for your
Yes, we
report.
appreciate you being
Yeah.
here.
And early college high school,
Was
is that with the Deming High School?
They're separate, but they did their reports. So they're
Yeah.
done.
Okay,
So now we move to the.
and now we're on to public comment. You can see I'm kind of
That's
all
okay.
over the place tonight. At this time, we'll ask Mr. Turner to call up anyone who may have signed up for a public comment for agenda items. As a reminder, any member from the audience wishing to speak must speak only about items on the agenda and is limited to 3 minutes unless members of the board have follow-up questions. So do you have,
Madam President, members of the board, nobody signed up for public comment this evening. So we could move forward with the consent agenda.
okay? All right. We're now on item 6, the consent agenda. And we did those all at once, so,
So,
yes,
Madam President, I'd make a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the items on the consent agenda. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
okay, then we, the consent agenda passed. All right, now we're on action items, and the first is consideration and approval of Pro Start travel to Florida, April the 21st to the 24th for competition. And Jen Wertz was ready to tell us about it.
Madam President, members of the board, Mrs. Chavez, what a wait. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Cook Around the World competition I'm taking kids to in Florida. We've been trying to get in since 2015. Really, it's really hard to get in. So it's really an honor for these kids to be chosen, to be applied. We had a spot in 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. So I've been trying ever since then to get back in. Well, if you'll turn, there's pictures of how the contest
Yeah,
looks.
they're all our thing.
And it's sponsored by Disney, okay? And so what they do is they sponsor hospitality workshops for these kids. So they'll have teams of hospitality CEOs and people from Disney come and they do workshops for the kids for a couple of days, and then at the end of it, we have a culinary contest. And you can go ahead and advance, Mr. Chair, thank you. There's celebrity judges, there's Food Network chefs that will meet there. The kids will be assigned to a team, and it's all international cooking, so they will be assigned to a country when they get there. And they will be with other kids from other high schools. And they'll have to plan, they'll have to shop, they'll have to budget, they'll have to do all these things to get their meal pulled together. And then at the end, they'll have this culmination of the week and have that contest. And Ann Burrell is the chef this year. And then they'll go to Epcot, they'll have educational tours, you know, behind the seeds tour, all the agricultural things, the aquaponics, hydroponic, all of the new technologies for agriculture and food growth. They'll go to those things. And then we have a little extra day in there for Disney. But I think it's gonna be a
You
fun,
have to have
it's gonna be a fun trip. These kids are gonna learn a lot. They will be rubbing elbows with kids from all over, and it's international. So there's kids gonna be from other countries too.
Wow.
So I think it'll be exciting. Really exciting trip.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. And we're gonna take a camera with us. Like the ones that the kids can wear, so we can film the whole thing, and then we'll put together a little thing when we get back.
Wow.
Oh,
The
yeah.
kids would like to cookie dinner. I think that would be kind of fun.
And then you
That
can
would be
cook us all a dinner.
We will cook you a dinner, and the kids will kind of present
Oh, wow.
Okay.
dinner, what they did. I think it'll be cool.
I would love to.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
definitely sign up
I
for
was
that.
sort of halfway teasing, but I wasn't either.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But they could have been here tonight because they were already all on their schedules. They all were.
Yeah.
So they were already on their schedules, and we apologize if they could.
No.
They're a good group of kids.
How many students do you get to take?
I get to take 3.
Oh,
It's my
wow.
cooking team. They're gonna compete next week in Albuquerque at the state contest, and I think they could win.
Wow.
Their
Wow,
food is beautiful.
that's amazing.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So how many of the kids of these 3 students do you feel like are going to use, go into a career?
All of them.
So that's their career choice. Wow, that's really neat.
One of them is a junior and the other 2 are seniors.
Uh-huh.
And one of them, we're already applied to culinary school.
Wow.
The other one, she wants to go into hospitality, more hotel management, restaurant management.
Yeah.
And the other one is a junior, and he's gone from wanting to be an engineer to really wanting to be a chef. So, you know, we're pushing him that way because he's got it. He could be a butcher, he could do anything. He fabricates the meat for our practices. We go through a tenderloin every 10 days. And they're very expensive right now. But I go get him a whole one, and we fabricate it down, and he's doing a beautiful job. And
Wow.
so it's been fun. But
Yeah.
we'll come back into a
That'd be
follow-up.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Well,
Madam President, I'd like to point out that Superintendent Chavez's face says she would like to chaperone this trip.
Right. We might all want to.
we may all have a meeting down there.
Get out of Dodge.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And see how the other half moves. We have Mr. Ortiz and I have already gotten hold of a couple of people, so we can take them behind the scenes at Disney to see how the food service works. You know, in a small part, we'll take them to a couple of places because we've done that before, but just to see how things work, you know? And we may even, I talked to someone today that we may even get the underground
Oh, wow.
to see how
Ah,
they have tunnels underneath,
Right.
and you see how everything works, and they move from kitchen to kitchen, and so it's kind of
yeah, that is,
cool. We'll see how that goes.
That's weird.
We'll keep you posted.
yeah,
Thank
sounds
you.
good.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. So
You
we
have a
need a motion, we need a
Oh.
motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the Pro Start travel to Florida, April 21st through the 24th. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Who seconded it?
Mr. Kroll.
Mr. Crowe.
Mr. Carl did. I'm just not really listening tonight for some reason. I would be the one you would put in the chair in the corner right now. Anyway,
That's
okay.
Mr. Roscoe's permanent spot.
He wouldn't let me take it.
Would you call the roll, please?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
roll, please.
Yes, ma'am.
The vote.
Mr. Orozco.
Yes.
Mrs. Paez.
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron.
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
And I did fail to mention, although I think everyone's noticed that our superintendent, Mrs. Chavez, is on the screen, and we welcome you virtually, Vicky. Glad you're here.
Yeah, we should add that she's at a conference in Texas.
Oh, yes, she is at a conference. She's not on vacation or swimming in the ocean. So she is working, even at night, she's joining us here. So I'm sorry I didn't mention that before. But you are missed. All right. Next is consideration and approval of JROTC travel to Tombstone, Arizona, February the 24th through the 26th for competition. Mr. Parker, is he?
Good evening, President Cameron, members of the board. Can't do as fabulous job as Worst did on that presentation. This is a request for permission to take our JROTC team to Tombstone, Arizona for competition, for the regular competition piece to kind of go on. Although we don't have Colonel Moultrie to speak about that, he did put that in his requesting permission to take our students out of state for travel. So, and for any questions that I can, but this is not unusual for our teams to go out of state for this type of competition.
Right.
How many kids are going?
I think we had about 8 the last time that I looked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to go back and look at the rosters changed as we go.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions of Mr. Parker?
Are they gonna get to see the show over at Tombstone?
I don't know. I mean, they may be able to kind of squeeze that in for sure. It would be a fabulous thing to do. Although I have heard that sometimes they, you know, with everything going on, sometimes they don't have the shows as regular as that they used to. So hopefully they'll get to squeeze that in. It's fabulous history over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to
Okay.
approve the JROTC travel to Tombstone, Arizona.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the JROTC travel to Tombstone, Arizona, February the 24th through the 26th for competition. Could we have the roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco. Yes. Mrs. Paez.
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron.
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
the motion carries. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We'll make sure
Thank
we
you.
get updated rosters so we know exactly how many they're going. Thank you. so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Okay. Item C is consideration and approval of budget adjustment request with Leslie Doyle, and I believe she's
She's on.
on the camera coming up.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. Nice to see you this evening. You do have before you this evening some budget adjustments. The first two are very similar, both to purchase caps and gowns for our McKinney-Vento and migrant students. The third one that you have is final allocation for our CTE program. That's just the final allocation for the year. Then number 9 is a grant that we received from Luna County. This is for earpods to help with attendance incentives. And then finally, this one I believe was approved at the last board meeting, but the budget is being presented for your approval this meeting for the hunter safety course. And with that was fairly painless. I will stand for any questions.
I do have a question. Leslie, is the hunter safety class, do the students also get credit for that and for part of the total credits that they need?
I would actually have to defer to either Ms. Chavez or Mr. Parker because I'm not sure. I can tell you where we're paying for it from, but as far as the credits, I cannot speak to that.
Mr. Mr. Parker, I'm sorry, I had.
That's just fine. So what I understand that this is an after-school kind of program. It's adjacent. I do not believe it is for any credit at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Chavez is shaking her head, no, too.
Any other comments?
When it comes to the caps and gowns, I was just wondering if that's not already built into the budget, or maybe it should be already built into the budget if it's something that you guys do every year. Or can you?
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of that. That is a request from, this was the procurement fee. It was budgeted within the grant already. It's just that it needed to be under a different line item.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
that's a good question.
any other questions?
We need a motion.
Do we have a motion, please? To approve the request as presented to us tonight?
I'll make a motion. We approve the budget adjustment request.
Do I have a second?
No, you got it.
Okay,
Yeah, you got it.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes,
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
the motion carries. Thank you. All right, item D. Consideration and approval of grant agreement between the Deming Public Schools and Project Lead the Way Incorporated. We have David Berger
Yes.
and it's,
We just have Mr. Berger.
okay. Hello, Mr. Berger.
Yes, my name is David Berger. I teach computer science at Deming High School. As you may know, this is a new program for us, and what we have been using has been curriculum provided by Project Lead the Way. And this grant would be to help pay for materials and training for adding future courses onto the program, because right now we only have the intro to computer science, and we're looking to add a couple more classes on, and this would help with that.
Questions?
this isn't a direct question, but do you have a lot of interest in computer science? I'm just
So-
assuming probably, but.
Me or the students?
No, the students, sorry, yeah.
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 No, do you care?
Yeah.
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 So, the students, the interest in computer science, I think right now, it's kind of hard to gauge because we have just the intro class. So I believe a lot of my students were kind of shuffled into my class for lack of another class to put them in. However, I do have many of my students, I would say roughly somewhere around like a third of the students do show a higher level of interest in computer science and may be interested in moving on to higher levels. I do actually have a few students that are very interested in the program and that are doing very well. I'm very excited to facilitate them going on with this path.
And that's, I mean, that's a critical thing at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, does that grant give any allowance for like kind of promoting computer science? throughout the
So,
school? I mean, I'm probably sure, I'd be willing to bet there's probably a small amount that people just don't know what it is. Students don't know what it is.
yeah, so the grant is primarily to how's the part about the grant is primarily to cover the costs of Project Lead the Way because it can be a fairly expensive program because Project Lead the Way uses a lot of specialized equipment like the self-driving vehicles that we have for the intro to computer science, the little robots through Vex Robotics that we had to purchase, which we purchased using another grant, I'm told. But this would also help. It's mostly for supplies. It doesn't say anything on here about really anything about promotion.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you could probably find something. I can maybe have them make some posters.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then we will have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Crowe, will you call?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes,
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
I'm going to add something that I just was thinking about as this came up. My husband, Don Cameron, taught the first computer classes in Deming High School, which was many years ago. And So it's exciting to see how the program has grown. He came from an engineer that used a computer, brought it to the school. So I know that it's very changed a lot and a lot more implied, but I just couldn't help but mention
Yeah.
that. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Okay. Item E. The consideration and approval of resolution authorizing the disposal of miscellaneous property. You just like to come before us, don't
Right?
you?
See me next one. Good evening, Madam President. So what you have before you is a house cleaning. We are really getting rid of, we're piling up at the maintenance
Oh, I
yard.
thought you were gonna come to my house and.
No, we're just trying to get ours cleaned. Right now, we have a tremendous amount of stuff that has just been piling up, coming out of classrooms, schools being torn out, machinery that doesn't work anymore. You name it, and some things that we've just been holding on to for years as parts, and we just deemed that it's time to move on. And so that's pretty much what you have on there. There's some good things, there's some bad things, and there's some really ugly things in there, but we're just asking to be able to dispose of those. They will go to auction in a month if it's approved. We'll put it on public surplus and list them there, and then we're working on another list right now that has approximately 60 more items on it from Central Cafeteria.
Wow. That's very easy for that to pile up, isn't it?
Well, and the problem is right now we have no storage for any of this.
Mhm.
And so we have displaced a lot of our machinery out from underneath our canopies to put stuff, because if we don't put it away, 1 or 2 rainstorms and it's going to the dump. And so I think it's better if we can get this off to somebody that can use it and maybe get a little bit of money back in our operation.
Yeah.
There's no need for like this, the chairs or anything to go to, Cesar Chavez, they're not.
Been asked, well, we don't go past our school, but it's been asked throughout our schools and nobody wants to do this. And to be honest, a lot of them they're well used. They're well used.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the disposal of miscellaneous property.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have roll call, please? A roll call, call for the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe,
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
okay, thank you. The motion passes. You can clean up now.
We need this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Item F, consideration and approval of the resolution authorizing the disposal of a 2004 school bus. That was the year no, it wasn't. That was some other year.
Yeah.
Mr. Milo.
Good evening. Madam President, members of the board, you have before you a disposal of an asset from our fleet. It's a regular bus, 72 passenger, 2004. It's about ready to have its 20th birthday. And so that's why we're disposing of the bus.
Okay, sounds like a good plan. Any questions?
No.
Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the disposal of a 2004 school bus.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could you call for the vote,
Yes,
please?
ma'am. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay.
the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item G is the consideration and acceptance of 2022-23 broadband deficiencies correction program award. That might need a little explanation. Welcome, Mr. Glicker.
President Cameron, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
You do. President Cameron, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, you have before you a couple of documents for your consideration. One's an MOU that if we would like to do it, will require your approval. Both of them are documents that we choose to do, will require the superintendent's signature. What the Broadband Deficiencies Correction Program is it's a New Mexico program that augments the USAC program, which is the E-rate program that we already use. Whenever we have an application, when we're trying to do some sort of electronics, network electronics for a school site, we're able to use E-rate funds to pay for a great portion of that. And then the remaining portion, the district pays for. However, the New Mexico program takes that remaining portion and kicks in an additional 5%. So the federal government is covering approximately 85% of a project, and an additional 5% is covered by New Mexico, leaving the district with a much smaller share. As an example, if you take a look at the MOU, it has those numbers broken down. You can see that we have an FY22 project to replace the network electronics in Red Mountain Middle School because they're a little bit old and they're nearing that couple of years where they're going to be end of life. But more importantly, we've had enough power events at that school that I'm not completely confident in all of the equipment. And this is an opportunity to refresh it. That project costs $106,000. And of that $106,000, E-rate, which is the federal share, kicks in $90,000, leaving 16 left over. Of that 16 left over, if we accept this MOU with the state will kick in $8,903.35, leaving the district share just shy of $7,000 for this entire project. So it begins 106,000, district share 7,000, which means we
Sounds like a pretty good
save
deal.
$99,000 overall on this project and get that entire school refreshed. My recommendation is that we approve the MOU. My recommendation to Superintendent Chavez is that she signs both of these. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Sounds like a good deal.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, we
Welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, we may have you go and find other things to dispose of. Okay. All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion for the acceptance.
Yes, I'm sorry, for the acceptance of the Broadband Deficiencies Correction Program Award.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will take the call for the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes,
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mr. Kroll? Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
the motion carries. Thank you. Well, next one is someone that has been listening to us, and we're going to have a band to welcome you. Superintendent Chavez, we were going to have food and we had all sorts of plans.
And I missed out.
And you
I
missed
missed
out.
out.
But I should have introduced at first that you were on the camera, and I apologize for that.
It's
But,
all good. You've done a great job of moving the agenda along.
So we have, but anyway, we're ready for your report or report.
Okay, so we just have two items for
Okay.
the superintendent's report. The first one is just a review of our graduate profile. We have finally organized it into a more final document that we've been sharing. It will definitely revisit it, but Mrs. Trejo, this was part of a project for a course she was taking, and she did an excellent job of just facilitating and leading it. So we did do community input. We had some administrator input, and when I went out to the schools last year, gained information from, just teachers who did attend those meetings, and just really wrapped this together. And so we've put it into a slick, and it's going to be part of our guiding document as we develop our strategic plan over the next, and establish that for the next 3 to 5 years. So we'll look at it again. But we wanted something that we could just visually hand out, and it would be kind of quick and easy to read. So this is where we're at right now. Again, we'll be revisiting it as we work through a continuous improvement cycle. So happy to answer any questions, take any feedback.
Do you have any questions, board? I do think it's an excellent plan.
Yeah, no, I think it's very impressive. And
Yes, it's impressive, and it's the Texas A&M colors and also the New Mexico State.
It's also
colors.
Wildcats.
And it's also Wildcats, so we're covering everyone's, but most important,
And-
it's our Deming Wildcats.
That's right. It's our Deming Wildcats. And one of the things that we'll do, and at this conference, we got some great ideas on how do you then make this more like a living document, starting with our pre-Ks, and what does that mean at each of the grade levels? So I'm excited to go a little deeper with it as well.
okay. And so will this be
Um,
given to the high school students? Okay,
Actually, we want it to be, we'll do a campaign. We want everybody to know that Growing Champions is about having, students who leave our district who can do these things. They have these skills, attributes, and qualities that they leave our schools with. And so we really want it to be known, actually, from the time they enter Deming Public Schools, whatever grade that is.
okay. So this will go home with students though, so parents will see it. I'm hoping.
Eventually, yes. And we'll be
Okay.
posting it online. It literally is pretty close, hot off the press. It's about 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
Mrs. Chavez, this is for K through 12 or mainly for high school?
No, this is everybody. Like when a student comes to Deming Public Schools and they're a Wildcat, these are the things, the skills, the attributes, and the characteristics that we want them to learn and exhibit. We had quite a few community people give us feedback. We had a really big turnout. And then we had businesses give us some additional feedback. So this is kind of like a combination of, we know we have content we have to teach, but what are some of those other skills and attributes that kids need when they leave? So it's for everyone, but it might look different in kindergarten versus 9th grade, for example, how they demonstrate those things.
That's what I was going to say is next, and you said it is how does it look at the different levels? Will all look different. And
Absolutely.
I think it's an excellent a profile and something for us to be proud when we are working not only with our own students and parents, but and staff, but also other schools as well. Very well done. Any other
Thank you.
questions or comments? Okay.
And then the other item, the board asked to review the gas bills from the last, I was just trying to pull mine up, but from the gas bills from the last couple of years. And so you received that information in your packet, and wanted to just see if you had questions. As you can see, each of the pages represents a location, and it shows what the units, it shows by month, and then it shows the days of the month, the usage, the cost in 2021, 2022, and 2023. I know one of the concerns, we know natural gas has, gone through the roof. The price of a therm has gone through the roof. The issue that we were seeing, however, is that some of the units were also going through the roof. And what's interesting to me when I saw the 3 years together, not all, but most, in 2023, for example, so if we just look at the very first page, which would be Cody, the administration building that you're in right now, you can look at 2021, we used 401 units in December, 168 last year, and then 230 this year. It's interesting how varied they are. But if you look at the Title I Training Center, we went from 116 to 58 to 220. So we have, and I believe Mr. Wirtz is still in the audience, but I believe they checked like for gas leaks. They ensured the meter, there wasn't anything happening with that. We did some investigating of our own. So it's just interesting how the units are so different from year to
Yes.
year.
And
Yes.
there was nothing, huh, Mr. Works, there was nothing, huh?
We found no gas leaks anywhere. If weather was a concern, you would be seeing the same trend across all the units.
Yeah.
Right.
When we shut the units down for breaks,
Yeah.
we shut them down across the district. And it's just the discrepancies between this building to this building. We have some buildings that are real consistent and other buildings that were just all over the place. And I think we had some of them, some particular buildings from last year to this year went up like 200%.
Wow.
And that's usage, not dollars. And so, yeah, there's some issues there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we're just trying to- we can't explain it. We don't know why.
Yeah. It's just- So the city is wrong when they say we might have a leak. There's no leaks.
There's no leaks.
Yeah.
Unless they're microscopic, and the only way we're gonna find that is to bring out an actual company to really, and if they're that small, they're not gonna cause a big problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Thank you. Any other comments on that?
Well, I was just thinking that maybe the difference had something to do with COVID, but 2022, we were in school
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's the lower one. So that doesn't make sense, does it? Yeah, so. no.
What's the difference of this year than last year? What's the difference in the cost total that we've had to pay extra?
Oh,
I don't have.
I don't know the total.
This
We'd
is,
have to go through, you know what,
so
Mr.
there's
Kroll, I
some-
didn't add those up.
Yeah.
I think if you look at Deming High School, November last year, we paid 3,400. November this year, we paid 12,000 for 1 month. Wow. So I think that gives you kind of, and that's what started the flag, that's what started the trigger. That we started looking.
And that's a brand new building, supposed to be better insulated, have, you know,
That's a
state of the art,
huge
everything.
building.
Yeah.
And you go back and we've never paid that much, and we've never had that big of a usage of Deming High School, and that's just Deming High School, that's not Hope Beckett campus.
Oh, yeah.
Hope Beckett, their meter wasn't working. So.
Wait.
And I
Yeah,
think,
it's crazy.
Well, we gotta be careful because, I mean, obviously, I went to the meeting yesterday, there for the city and they negotiated a price finally with, I guess, the gas company. But what's sad is that it's affecting so many people and it's gonna affect our kids because we can't use that money to do other things. Cause we gotta keep the building warm or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And that craziness, how are you gonna control that? You know what I'm saying? When it's not right, it's just not, plain and simple.
Well, my question is, was the cost adjusted? Because I had heard that the city was going to adjust some of the costs. So has that happened?
Has that happened at all?
You don't know.
Yes. Okay, Leslie is able, Ms. Doyle is able to say whether, so this was pulled, and if you look at the date, this was pulled on February 13th. So we really only had data, probably good solid data through November, because December, there might have been some, well, I guess you can look at the days though. I'm just looking really quick to see. I'm not sure December is 100% accurate, but that's just mine. So I was looking at November mostly to compare the years to years to years. But what are you seeing, Ms. Doyle, with the new bills that have come in?
Yes, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I don't have exact numbers in front of me, but as I understand it, the initial bills that came to us were about 31,000. We held that check knowing that we were going to get it adjusted, and I believe that the adjustment was about 17,000. So it was a pretty significant decrease once we received the adjustment.
But it's still high.
But that's for 1 month.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right, exactly.
That's crazy.
right,
17,000.
other questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, at least people, that way it gets out there that it's.
Yes. It really does impact our budgets.
Yeah, it does.
And what we probably will have to consider as we go into the next budget year too, I would think, Leslie, is that
Exactly.
correct?
And they had mentioned they locked it in for 1 year. So next year we might be in the same position. So that's something to consider when we do the budget. We really might, whatever the cost is what they gotta sign or whatever, you know, so I think it's. I don't understand it. I just don't. So we're gonna be dealing with this next year.
Right. I may be spending all my time up here next year if it's still going. Camping in the. Oh, dear. Hey, that didn't require no, okay. Our next, is our, staffing help?
Ask her if she has.
No, we're not, those are the only two reports that we have. So unless there's anything anyone else has questions about, we can go to the announcements.
Okay. Are there other questions under the report? If not, we will go to item 9, our announcement. First one is any board member requests for agenda items for our next meeting?
Yeah, I want to request something.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's ever really requested anything. I want to discuss what's going on with when people get into the games, they're not allowed to pay with dollars. They got to pay with they got to get extra money from, you know, or whatever they got to do with a credit card or whatever they got to do. So I like to have that on the agenda so we can discuss it a little further.
Discussion of entrance, gate
Gate fees, that
entrances.
sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So it's the process you're wanting to discuss. Anything specific?
Just the entry fees,
The cost or the process?
the process.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Request?
Well, I don't know if this is exactly an agenda request, but when we just went to the New Mexico School Board
Board,
Association meeting. And I think you and I were in a conference where they suggested bringing in students at every meeting for different groups to really hear what's going on. And I really enjoyed your presentation. I know we had the robotics team come one
Yeah.
time and that
Mhm.
was super interesting. And so I don't know if that's a suggestion that we actually need to talk about and put on the agenda, or if we could just have different
A different
student
group
groups
each
come
month
in,
so that
you know.
we hear all of it.
So however Superintendent Chavez and President Cameron think that we need to do that, it's just a
Right.
suggestion.
I do think hearing from the students and their perspective of what's going on is very
Yeah.
important,
That's good.
as well as is with our other classes of employees as well,
Yeah.
that we need to hear that. Because sometimes what we hear out in the public and what we hear here, sometimes they go right together and sometimes there's conflicting. So it would be good for us to spend that time. Any other requests for agenda items? Okay, if not, our next regular board meeting will be March the 23rd here at this Emmett Shockley Administration Building. If board members have anything, again, remember, please get that on the agenda. And we want to thank our help right here next to us, who has guided us through this agenda without you being here, Mrs. Chavez. So thank you, Charles, for your
It's been my
extra
pleasure.
help tonight. And be careful coming home, Mrs. Chavez. With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We don't have to have a roll call, but we can
It's up to you. Would you tell me what?
call it.
Let's call it, Mr. Roscoe? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yeah.